conference. Well, we have the expert with us now. Grover Norquist is president of Americans for Tax Reform. I guess the fundamental question you have the answer to, because you are in many ways the heart of this anti-tax movement. Is this a smart move politically for the candidate for president?
I think picking Paul Ryan is brilliant and is a strong vice presidential pick. The only reason it's sort of interesting to look at is that the depth of the Republican bench is so deep that he could have gone with Rubio. He could have gone with Walker, governor of Wisconsin. He could have gone with the governor of Louisiana, Bobby Jindal. He could have gone with Christie.
But not with the other. But the other two in the sort of the top three in the way everybody's been buzzing about this has been Pawlenty and Portman. You don't think they would have done what this did today, that Ryan did today?
Actually, I'm a big fan of both of them.
Would they have done what Ryan did today?
I think it would have been different because the broad center-right is more familiar with Ryan's work, the Ryan budget. Remember, Gingrich fell apart in the last campaign when he sort of said, well, set Ryan aside, I've got some other theory, and his campaign imploded. The broad center-right has accepted the Ryan approach, doing what Clinton did for welfare reform, doing that for Medicaid and other means-tested programs, such as food stamps and jobs programs and so on. Taking the Clinton on aid to families with dependent children towards means-tested programs, that's now accepted by the center-right in the same way that the Kemp-Roth bill was accepted by Republicans before Reagan.
You said you suggested that Paul Ryan's of the center-right. Who would you categorize on the right in the Republican Congress, members of Congress who are Republicans? Who would you say is on the right if Paul Ryan's center-right?
Well, Paul Ryan's budget got all
why
but
is he center-right? Who is in the right then? Who's on the right?
I would consider center-right everybody who views the world as Reagan did, and the 60% of the American people who voted for Reagan when he ran on his record in '84. So that's when I say center-right, center and right.
Okay, fine. Let me ask you about the spine. Looking at this thing from a different perspective, I think what he did in that pick was create a spine for the ticket, a conviction ticket now. It looks much more like a conviction ticket than an opportunist ticket. What do you think?
Well, clearly because Ryan has done what Obama and Biden didn't do 4 years ago. They had a couple of slogans and some ideas, but nothing written down. The Ryan budget, the Ryan roadmap is actually written down, and you can look at it. The left thinks that this makes him a target. In point of fact, what it really does is it goes back to Obama's budget. His budgets for the next 10 years, they're written down too, and they're full of debt and more spending and zero reform on entitlement. So,
well, let me ask you about since you're the expert on it, did Ryan sign the pledge that you put out for the members of Congress when they run? Is he one of the signers? He's a signatory.
Yes, as a congressman, he has always signed the pledge and kept the pledge, yes.
Okay, let me ask you about this thing we talked about just about an hour ago. The idea of getting rid of taxes on cap gains, on people who make money off money. Can you sell that to the middle? You're talking about the center-right in the middle there. Well, the middle-of-the-road person who maybe makes $40,000 a year for a family and doesn't really have a lot of equity money off work, are they going to like the idea of people who make money off money getting away scot-free?
Well, I don't know.
Are they going to like that idea?
Well, we do know some history on this. The polling data on the death tax, the estate tax.
Well, just about the cap gains, though.
Right. But many Americans pay cap gains at some point in their life. Only 2 or 5% of Americans are going to pay the death tax in their life. And yet, when you ask the Americans, should the death tax go to zero, you get 2/3 of the American people saying yes. So playing to envy or class antagonisms doesn't work on the death tax. My guess is it won't work on capital gains either. When we've cut the capital gains tax and gotten more revenue and more economic growth and more jobs every time we did it, that I think is of more importance to unemployed or underemployed people than whether some guy who's worked all his life, saved money, makes money on capital gains.
But look at all the sensitivity you're seeing, and this is an objective assessment. The sensitivity on the part of Romney about releasing his tax returns. You say that's not a problem to be perceived as making millions and millions a year, maybe $20 million a year, and not paying taxes on it. If you create that law that says you can make $20 million a year off other money you've accumulated, like $250 million like him, you don't think that's a sensitive point? Well, why is it so sensitive with Romney then? He doesn't want to put out his tax returns.
Well, first of all, he has put out a couple years of tax returns.
No, just 1 year, and he promised to put out another one.
Which is what other people have done historically. However,
why is he sensitive about releasing more tax returns? I'm just asking.
Oh, I don't know the reasoning. I haven't talked to you about that. On the capital gains tax, remember, we in the United States, we tax income when you earn it. If you save it in the bank, you pay taxes on interest. If you buy stock with it, you pay corporate income taxes, you pay corporate capital gains taxes. If the stock goes up, you pay capital gains taxes. If you're stupid enough to die, they want to steal half. So announcing that you're not going to be taxing the dollar that you earn 5 times in the future doesn't mean it's not taxed. It just means it isn't double and triple taxed.
Well, that's assuming you earned the money yourself. It wasn't inherited, obviously. But you can inherit tons of money and live off cap gains and never pay hardly any taxes. Look, early this year at the CPAC convention, you spelled out what conservatives should be looking for in a presidential candidate. Let's listen to you, Grover.
Okay.
We just need a president to sign this stuff. We don't need someone to think it up or design it, so focus on electing the most conservative Republican who can win in each House seat and the most conservative Republican who can win in each Senate seat, and then pick a Republican with enough working digits to handle a pen to become President of the United States.
So does Ryan have enough working digits to handle a pen? He's already signed your pledge not to raise taxes. You don't have much romance about the presidency of the United States, do you? You see them basically as an executor who carries out the will of the people, particularly in each issue. For example, on taxes. Don't think up there. Just do what we tell you.
Well, actually, it came in the context in my talk of pointing out that historically the Democratic Party has focused on the House and the Senate because for 60, 70 years, their view was we own the House and the Senate. We'll never lose those. We will lose the presidency to war heroes because of corruption problems or economic problems. Right. We'll have the House and Senate govern from the House and Senate. When Carter came into office and he wanted to have an energy policy, they told him to go talk to the relevant committee chairman. When Obama came in, they said, sign our stimulus package. It wasn't written by Obama. It's written by Congress. The health care bill was put together by Congress.
So looking forward, what does that tell you about the choice we have about picking a president? Does he follow the policy of the Congress? Is that what you say?
Well, my argument is the Republican Party used to have knockdown, drag-out fights in choosing their president. Reagan, Goldwater, Rockefeller, Nixon, Rockefeller. Pick a different president, you had a different party. This last election, you had 10 people all running, some more competently than others, to be Reagan Republicans. So you weren't choosing a direction for the Republican Party. You were choosing somebody to administer.
Reagan won. Reagan won.
Yeah.
Thank you, Grover Norquist.